My name's Michael Wallace, co-founder of KickOffAt3, and brother to Adam Wallace.
Adam here, over in Vancouver, and in support of Michael's Kickoff at 3, and just having some constructive conversations here about football and the BAME community and what role and opportunities people of color get within soccer. Right. So I don't know how you feel about that, Michael. Over on your side of the pond there, if you kind of notice any trends or any things in any kind of lack of opportunities for people of color over there in football.
Yeah, bro. We've both grown up on different sides of the world. You in Vancouver, Canada, me in here. Originally, kind of called myself a Windrush baby. We'd call it through dads, and dad first settling in Brixton, Lambeth. With the family history, dad playing a lot of football, surrounded by good friends that he's still friends with. But those are guys playing football, and then we as family members, brothers, kind of following the trend and going into football. And I would say, growing up here around, originally like Brixton, we're surrounded by a big Afro-Caribbean community.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving a little bit further afield over to Norwood, and then into a place in Beckenham where I was at school, and I was, with the family. We was a predominantly white British area, and there was very few black families, and what I noticed, we integrated very well. Great friends, but as time went on through the sport, in playing at school level, Sunday football level, league, and you start interacting with a lot more different cultures. But one thing for me that was clear, that was, there was a lot of black Afro-Caribbean, very good players, but there was no managers, no coaches, and I didn't, when I was young, I didn't really take much notice of it, to be honest. It was, I could see, I wasn't really seeing colour, if that makes sense. I was surrounded by good people, friends. I personally, in the area that I grew up around, was quite thick-skinned, so yes, I experienced a little bits of racism, but nothing major, I would say. But as time's gone on, growing up, and then becoming more culturally aware, if you want to call it that, and seeing the things that happen around me, then I could then start seeing where, being black, there was a difference,
Mm-hmm.
And then started more aware of looking job roles, and there was a lot of Afro-Caribbeans, but I didn't see many kind of management in not just football, but just in jobs in total. So and then getting involved in KickOffAt3 and the whole thing of giving opportunities to young people, which we're about. Myself and Ashley, we're trying to be good role models, give, but it's really hard when you're trying to encourage young people opportunities, but and there are opportunities there. There's a massive amount of now through the football leagues, diversity, but if you look at it, you're not seeing many Asian players. I know a lot of Asians play football. I
But
think
by Asian, you mean like for me, from my side of the world here, Asian, you mean East Indians?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, East Indian, call it Asian community, like Pakistan.
yeah, yeah.
Here in London, we call it for the Asian community, whereby, in Canada, Asians are classed as Chinese. Chinese, is that correct?
Yeah, Chinese, Japanese, kind of Far East, Far East.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of really good Asian players here in around the country, but I know they're playing, but you don't see them playing through the leagues.
Yeah, through and professionally and
Yeah,
getting the chances. Yeah, yeah.
For me, that's a bit of that's a problem, because
Hmm.
I know they play football just
Yeah.
like they play cricket, and but and then you can start looking further afield and start looking at if you start looking at coaching, management, then we start going up the level at boardroom level. You're not seeing enough representation
Yeah, not enough diversity at all. It's it's similar to here. Well, and with my experience growing up, again, grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, white community. One of three kids in a high school of 1,000 kids. One of three black kids in the high school, the other one being my brother, and was usually more often than not the only kid of Caribbean background or black background on my teams growing up. But that being said, one of my first coaches was Asian or East Indian, and I had a lot of teammates who were East Indian over the years. Like I said, there's a big East Indian community here. So you know, um, growing up, we're definitely I had friends and players that I played with of color and diverse backgrounds, um, but from a Black African or Afro Caribbean descent, I was one of a few here. Like we said, it's a fairly small community here, so we don't, from the kind of Afro Caribbean or African community, there isn't a lot of representation in terms of players and coaches and people in management. And then again, yes, on sitting on the boards of clubs here, because we know maybe slightly different to over there. We just don't have the numbers and the representation here. Whereas I think over in England, you've got the numbers in the community, but you just don't see the people in that position. And why that is, don't know. I mean, I do know of a couple of black coaches here who have done quite well, played over in Europe, and now they're back here coaching, giving back to the communities. But that's literally like two of them, that I know of. When you look at our professional team out here, I can't think of um, any African American, Black, or East Indian or Asian Chinese coaches within that professional setup. Off the top of my head, I could be wrong, but having done some work with them, again, I was um, one of the only coaches of color within the coaching academy with our professional team here. Why that is, maybe there's just not the coaches around with the experience. But I believe if you look hard enough, you can find them. But are they not? Are they just not being given the opportunity, or are they not putting themselves in the position to be given the opportunity? Again, I'm not too sure. From my experience, I've been quite fortunate being given opportunities. But that partly because of my experience and my background, as well as kind of pushing myself to and getting a hold of people, saying, listen, I'm available for this, I'm available for that, this is my experience, this is my background. And so I've been kind of afforded and given opportunities. So whether it's just people from those communities not putting themselves out there, even though they may have the experience, and just not putting themselves in positions to be awarded those or afforded those opportunities, or maybe is it because that they're just not out there in the numbers? It's tough to say why that the disparity exists. I don't have an answer for that, but I can definitely see that there is a disparity, in kind of representation in those types of positions in football. Well, as we said, Mike, not just football and community, but other jobs in general. You don't usually see people of color in positions of management and in higher up positions in workplaces. Again, here we've got a big East Indian community, Asian community, and they do really well for themselves. I'd say, in terms of other workplaces, actually, they're represented quite well. And I've been in workplaces myself where I've had East Indian boss or manager or whatnot. But again, when it comes to kind of African American, Afro Caribbean, maybe it's just because we just don't have the numbers here that that maybe is part of the misrepresentation, at least out here. But again, in England, I think you've got the numbers in that BAME community, but you're still not seeing the proper proportionate representation.
Yeah, no, in Vancouver to London is totally different, and I've been out to Vancouver, as you know, and Toronto, and there is a black community, but nothing like London.
Right. Obviously, you've got a much bigger black community in Toronto, and I can't really speak because I haven't lived in Toronto or spent too much time there. I can't really speak too much to what it's like back east. I know I went there a couple of years back for a tournament with a girls team, and just having a look around at kind of quick glance at some of the other teams, some of the male teams, there was a lot more black players in the squads, and there was actually some black coaches, and met a couple of Afro-Caribbean coaches there. So it might be a little different back east in Ontario, Quebec, in terms of people of color being afforded opportunities in positions of power and coaching and management and all the rest. But yeah, in Vancouver, I just don't think we have the numbers in the community to kind of have the same representation.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying there?
No. Well, here in London and across the UK, there's definitely enough representation. There's enough of a black Caribbean community, enough of a African community. There's enough of an Asian community. Mm-hmm. So,
you've got a much bigger melting pot of people over in London, over in England.
And I think where the problems are, there again, I'm not an expert. I don't sit in those rooms at that level of conversation, but from an outsider looking in and from what I see around me, and I'm talking from a community perspective, what I see, okay, I'm talking from my own perspective. I look at the likes of John Barnes, Paul Ince, Marcus Girl, who's one of our ambassadors, Paul Cannavale, one of our ambassadors, and you look at them, great careers, fantastic players. Paul Cannavale, first black player to play for Chelsea. Distinguished career. Unfortunately, career was cut short with injuries and so forth. Marcus Girl, much more, of a career. Wimbledon, Glasgow, Brentford. Played at national level for Jamaica, and the other various clubs he represented. And I know that he'd done a bit of coaching. I think he touched on a bit of management But then you look at, further field, bit further in the area, you look at John Barnes, Paul Ince, great players, top of their game.
Mm-hmm.
And they were given opportunity. They did get an opportunity, but it was very short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because you're not, you're putting them in a position of, you've got to give these guys time.
Mm-hmm.
Playing is totally different to managing, and it just, I don't know. As I said, it leaves me frustrated because you've got a lot of Black African and African Black, and they idolize these guys. And for me, if they see that these guys are not getting opportunity then it might be a case of thinking, well, what chance do I have?
Mm-hmm.
If these guys who are top of their game, very popular, and they're not given a chance, well, what chance do I have? And so you need it's very much like policing. You need representation at level,
Mm-hmm.
and you need the trust, and you need to give them time.
Yeah.
And then I personally believe, if you nurture talent, you trust in it, and you help them grow, support, and very much like what we're doing, KickOffAt3, trying to leave a legacy, then I honestly believe then you'll have more people that want to go into those positions. They want to, because they feel trusted to do the job. They'll believe, they'll have time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean, what do you think? So, I mean, just kind of speaking of time, I mean, there's Frank Lampard. He didn't get much time at the helm of Chelsea. He was given, I don't know, less than a year, or was it over a year? Anyways, and he's just been sacked. And you see here's Steven Gerrard's making a comment about it, a good buddy of his, and saying he should have been given more time. So, I mean, there's a case of a well-known, famous, idolized white player who has gone into management, not been given, maybe not been given the full opportunity he maybe deserved or needed to succeed. But at the same time, you've got Frank Lampard managing Chelsea. You've got Gerrard managing Rangers. There's got to be, I'm sure, from the amount of black players there are in England, there's got to be, former black players that are now coaching, but you don't see them coaching any Premier League teams. Trying to think the last black coach in the Premier League, even, was it Chris Houghton?
Maybe Chris Houghton, he's done very well.
Was there another fella at Wolves at one point? Maybe.
Well, you got.
But again, the fact that you have to think about it, you have to rack your brain and think, well, where, when was there a black coach? Has there been a black coach? What? But I'm sure there's got to be black coaches out there that have played at a high level, but you don't see them coaching.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, having to, you think, oh, I'm flustered. To be able to try and remember names, that's the problem. You have to, you have to look long and hard. So I think we're tackling a number of issues. We're tackling, just there's a number of issues going on, and I can't quite put my finger on it. We're talking about issues around maybe equal representation. We're talking about giving young coaches opportunities, whether black or white.
Mm-hmm.
There again, you pointed out quite correctly, Frank Lampard is white, and he hasn't been given much opportunities. So, you have to kind of have a balance. Is it color? Is it what is it? Is it money?
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, I don't sit in those. Either of us don't sit in the room with those conversations. However, I do know, I'm aware that there's for former players, they're really pushing for equal representation at the tables, not just at coaching, management, but boardroom level as well. Really pushing that there needs to be, needs to be more representation around at the FA table. And not just that. And this is something that Roger East is one of our ambassadors. Great guy and really supportive. And I would like to see more Black, Asian, BAME referees, linesmen. You might see them further down the leagues, but in the Premier League, there's not one Black referee. The last Black referee that I can recall, I think it's Rene, I think it was, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But that was a few years ago. But
and again, is that because they're not given opportunities from in the process to get there? They're not being given opportunities, or are people from that community just not putting themselves out there to take advantage of the opportunities that might be there? Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know. I don't have the answer. But
and that's what these things have got to be looked at. Very, very much like in the policing system, to go further up the line, might giving support groups to help to get to that level. Is it something that's been done at FA level? If you've got potential talent, then there should be support given there, to push them through, because it could be there is talent, but they're not being supported enough.
Not being supported, and I think maybe a lot of times with the BAME community as well is that just because of the position and kind of the background surrounding opportunities of people, from that heritage and from that culture, being afforded opportunities. I almost feel like a lot of times they don't put themselves out there. So I feel it's up to the organizations to go and hunt these people down, because they're, as a community, they're maybe feeling like, okay, well, that's not for me. I'm not going to, no point in me going for it, because I'm not going to get that opportunity anyways, or I'm not interested because, they don't see anybody else of their background, doing it. So it doesn't give them anything to aspire to. They don't see themselves doing it because they don't see anybody like them doing it. So it's a matter of these organizations and going out and hunting down people of color from these, minority communities. Say, listen, we want you to represent us. We want you to come work for us, or coach for us, or play for us, or whatever. And giving them the equal opportunity, as opposed to the people from these communities going out and say, well, trying to knock on doors and trying to open up doors for themselves. Is maybe it's got to come from the other side. These people, these organizations have to bring these people from these minority communities into their organizations.
I know that at the various football associations, I know there's a lot more work being done. How much I don't know, because I said I'm not sitting at tables. However, this is what I think. We they need to start thinking a bit more laterally, very much like the police. Start thinking a bit more outside the box, and then how can we make the differences? And it might mean bringing in people from the community to talk and say, look, this is maybe, this is how you can approach things. Just like, police, they have independent advisory groups that come in. They might not have the policing experience, but they've got the community experience. So maybe that might be something. I know the London FA, which we're working closely with. They've got a youth IAG group, independent advisory group. Met with them last week. Fantastic group of diverse of the younger generation, and it was really great to hear them talking about their views about, you know, racial equality, you know, things that maybe could be done better. And I was really, really impressed. So strategically, it might be, you know, I know certain conversations going further down, but at that higher level, boardroom level, you know, maybe somebody, you know, being bold enough to say, look, I want to bring in some young, fresh, vibrant blood, you know. And I think as well is we've got to remember, especially Premier League, you know, as you go further, you know, down the division, there's a lot of pressure on these coaches and managers and referees, and it could be that certain individuals of colour said, "I don't want that pressure because because you're going to be, you know, to be honest, if you're very of a few black, or Asian, or anybody of colour, scrutiny is going to be even more on you. And you know, you might. That's maybe you've got to look at some of these former players and saying, look, you know, they can play. There's enough pressure on players as it is. At management level, you're making.
I don't want to go into the management.
Yeah, just the pressure, own health. Yeah. You know, it's a pressurized.
Yeah, possibly. But you know, it's interesting because you know where I have seen black managers. This is, I mean, thinking back to my old team in Belgium, Roeselare, as well as I think you look at it's Dortmund, or you know, there's a couple of German teams. You know where you do see the black coaches on the assistant coach, but how come they haven't been given the opportunity as a head coach? Do they not want it? Were they not qualified enough? But you see them as an assistant coach, right? But again, not the head coach, not they don't have the full reins.
And that's a very valid point, because I've seen more assistant black coaches than actual managers or the main coach themselves. So that's a very valid point. So there again, there is, you know, to be assistant coach, you got to be, you know, of the standard. So it's quite interesting that why they haven't got the next step. Is it that they're not qualified enough? Is it they're not being supported enough? Is it they, you know, they just think, no, it's not for me. So you know, it's really quite interesting. I mean, all we can do is really keep pushing. I mean,
just be aware of it and keep pushing and keep trying to find you know, ways to support the issue. But I think one thing that will definitely help, and one thing again, you know, when you see somebody that looks like you doing something, it gives you hope. It says, okay, well, I can do that too, right? I think as you get more people of color from these minority communities into these positions, that the younger generations from those communities can see these people like them in these positions. I think it'll kind of have a knock-on effect. You'll have younger generations say, okay, well, I can do that too. I can become that. Well, he's done it, so I can do that as well.
Right? And I think as well, and that's a very good point. And I think as well, if you're at that level where you've been given that opportunity, and I'm all for diversity and equal representation, but I think it would be good if they surrounded themselves with a team that looks like them as well, if that makes sense. So you're building a foundation that then people outside looking and saying, right, okay, he or she is at the top of their game, and they're bringing in people that look like them as well, and doing a good job. I think that's quite important as well, you know.
I mean, have you ever seen I have never seen any football team with a black coach and black coaching staff ever. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Well, unless you go to Africa, of course, professional league in Ghana or something, right? You got to go to outside of Africa. or where Colombia or Venezuela, where they're all black anyways. But if you go to anywhere in Europe or South America, yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah, and I think that's quite important. You're not just seeing black coaches and managers at the top of the game, but you're seeing that reflected down, staffing down, your team. All for diversity, and people have got, great skills with that. But I think it's really important because people see that, and if they see that, they see potential hope that they can achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna go one further and now say, well, what about a black woman? In terms of, I've never seen a black woman coaching. Well, actually, one, and you know her. You've been introduced to her recently, I think. Julie King.
Yeah, Julie King. Yeah. I'm very, Jess King, Jess King's our ambassador. But there's very few, very very few of black coaches, females. So, and women's football is big, is massive.
Yeah, and it's growing, getting bigger. And so that's another area where I think representation is going to be important, especially for the younger generation, for young black girls to see black women in being coaches and being in positions of management. So these girls can say, hey, well, I can do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I know that English level, we've had, I think, a former black female that's coached at leading England.
Okay.
There's a lot of work to be done. But like you said, we can only kind of keep pushing, give hope, and then also I think it's important that we instill that hope in our younger generation coming through. That what we need to do as well, and this is what I'm trying to do with young people that are involved with KickOffAt3. Look at not just playing, look at refereeing opportunities, coaching badges, qualifications. So you're educated while you're playing as well. Some of you, at the moment with KickOffAt3 trying to get young referees to get their badges, and then they come and referee in our tournaments. We've had in a few of our tournaments, we've had young referees refereeing at our tournaments. So I think if we kind of go that further, not just playing, because there's a number of young players out there that they might not know. Look, Roger East said himself that he was not good enough at that. He loved football. He wasn't good enough at that level. But however, he went down the refereeing road and he was top of his game at refereeing.
Yeah.
You might be, looking at some, even some of your girls that you're coaching over in Canada, there, Vancouver, that, identifying some that, you all want to encourage them to play, but also start saying, have you thought about, because there's going to be, in teams, there's some they play, but there's some players that they really read the game.
Yeah.
And that,
I've actually got a couple of girls on my team that do referee. They referee. It's one thing that is one good thing. I think. Canada, Vancouver is good at. Girls are given opportunities here. If the girls are interested in it, there's opportunities for them. But again, it's trying to find the girls that are interested, and putting women in those positions of management power or playing, or where the younger girls can see them doing it, and say, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it too, right? But I think there's definitely, like I said, I've got a couple of girls on my team that do referee, and then the club gives them coaching opportunities as well. So as they get older, so some of the U17, U18 girls have the opportunity to go coach, like maybe the U9 girls, the U10 girls, as like volunteer coaches, so they get that experience and kind of get that perspective on the game. And hopefully that will maybe generate an interest for them to stay into coaching or maybe go into coaching, because there isn't a lot of opportunity for women to play professionally. Especially here in Canada, you got for a woman to play professional soccer, just like it used to be for the males here in Canada. We now have our own league here in Canada for men. But for women, they need to leave Canada. They have to go to America, or they have to go over to England or to France or something, Germany, to go play soccer professionally, right? So, which is exactly how it used to be for myself, for guys that wanted to play professionally. You had to leave Canada to go play professional. But we now have our kind of own league here, where if that option to go overseas, and therefore you can stay here and hopefully find a team here to play with. But yeah, for women it's completely different. So giving them that option of maybe going into coaching, or maybe going into reffing, or at least giving them that experience of being in a position of authority where they have to manage kids, and whether it's through refereeing or coaching, I think is a great kind of gateway for women to get involved with the game or stay involved with the game. Maybe not necessarily through playing professionally.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, bro. Would with you at Vancouver, and I'm just going to throw this question out there now. If you, say, for example, was given the opportunity to manage one of the top teams in Canada, Vancouver Whitecaps, or one of the teams out there, or you was given an opportunity where you live or just outside, would you, to put your hand in your heart, would you, if you was the main coach, would you be able to identify enough qualified Black or Asian or BAME staff to work alongside you?
Staff?
Yeah.
Probably not. I'd probably have to go hunting high and low for staff. I mean, yeah, if I really thought about it, I'm sure I could. Let's say. So actually, one of my buddies here was hired as the University of British Columbia women's coach, and a couple of years ago I was kind of an assistant coach there, helping them out. But if he were to, if I were in that position, I had to find a staff all from a minority community, it'd be tough. I mean, you could do it, but again, you'd have to.
Is it because there's not enough, or is it they're not qualified enough, or what is it that you would be able to find them?
I think, well, again, here, it's a small community. So because I'm kind of tied into that small community, I think I'd be able to find the contacts and find people to kind of staff my team with, from the minority community and from the BAME community. But yeah, I mean, it's not a big pool that you'd have to kind of choose from. It's not like you'd have a long list of people say, all right, okay, well, if it's not him, it's gonna, like, you'd literally have maybe and kind of off the top of my head, it's like maybe a handful of people that I could think of that that I know of just from being involved with the community and the soccer, the Black soccer community here. That I'd probably be able to make it work. So just for example, we have a tournament here in Vancouver, a suburb of Vancouver called Richmond, called the Nations Cup each year. And basically it's amateur, and it's done by nations. So you get England, Canada, Scotland, Ireland, all these, China, all these different teams playing in it. People go out and kind of play for their country, right, for fun, on a weekend. It's usually a hot sunny weekend, a lot of fun. And then we've got a Caribbean team right? So I usually play for the Caribbean team, not Team Ireland. They've got it's full of white guys, so I thought, I'll go play with a team where I look like the rest of the guys, right? So I usually join up with the Caribbean guys, but it's literally there's maybe 15, 20 odd guys that come out, but that's literally like the foundation. That's literally like our black soccer community is all playing on this one team. And it's maybe 20 guys, and you got a few guys that have played professionally for the Whitecaps, or played over in England previously, or had stints here or there, or played down states at college or whatever. But again, that's it. That's your representation for black soccer here in Vancouver, in British Columbia or Vancouver. Is what I feel like. Anyway, that's my opinion. Maybe there's a bigger, maybe there's more players out there that I'm unaware of. But generally you get that pool of black players coming out to represent Team Caribbean for this tournament, and that's what Vancouver's got. Unlike England, where you've got a much bigger population of black players and players from those minority communities. But yeah, I mean, just going back to, would I be able to staff my team with coaches, or staff it with people from the BAME community? You could probably do that, but one would just be, first thing would be just getting into that position. You look at my resume compared to some other people's resumes that are in have these coaching positions here or there, and I wonder, well, I'm pretty sure I'm qualified or have the same experience, maybe even more experience, but I haven't really put myself out there to try and attract attention for those positions.
Why not?
But would I, if I was pitted against, somebody else for one of those positions, would I get it? I don't know.
Why have you not? You've got a good resume.
Mm-hmm.
Why have you not put yourself forward?
Because I'm a teacher, and teaching takes up. Being a high school teacher takes up a lot of my day, a lot of my time. What's that?
Don't cop out.
Yeah. No. If I wasn't teaching, and I went into teaching because I wanted to kind of do something where, I knew it was safe. I knew I was going to have a paycheck each month, and as opposed to coaching, you got to travel, you got to go from here to there. You might not have a paycheck coming in for a couple months until you get the next job, so it's risky, right? I just didn't want to. I took that risk with playing football, and I did it for that 10 years, better part of 10 years, taking that risk, jumping around from place to place.
And that's why if you look, and that's why we've technically answered some of the questions we've asked ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because, taking that chance, that risk.
Yeah.
Do you really want to do it? You look at commentary level. There's a lot of black. Michael Richards doing very well with Sky.
Yeah.
A lot of the black players are commentating.
Mm-hmm.
Is it it's safe? You get a regular check. You don't have to. You don't have the pressures.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that work-life balance, family. You don't. And you just said, it's a risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a risk.
Take that
risk, and then it doesn't work out, and where you've got a good reputation, it could be gone within how long's a piece of string, how long you've been given. So I think we've answered a couple of questions ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We might get, if we do get the opportunity to maybe that's why we've got the qualifications, but they don't want to take the chance.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before. I say, is it a matter of people, people from that BAME community just not being qualified, or is a matter of the qualified and just not putting himself in that position to be afforded that opportunity. Like myself, I firmly believe I'm probably qualified to take on. I'm probably qualified to take on an academy team with the Whitecaps. I think I'm qualified to probably take on the coaching role with a university here, or maybe even take on coaching role with a university in the States. But it's that risk of not knowing, okay, well, how long is that job going to last? What am I going to do afterwards? Is it going to provide a steady income? I don't know if I want to run that risk. I'm quite comfortable teaching and knowing I'm going to get a paycheck at the end of the month, and still getting to coach on the side. Right. So, yeah, it's a tough one to answer. All I know is that there is a misrepresentation at the, within coaching and in the management level and at the board level, from amateur, from grassroots all the way up to the professional game in England, at the top.
And that's why I think it's important. I know it's a little bit different from football, but that's why I think it's important for there be good BAME representation, school governor level. I'm a school governor myself. I think that this is where you can get experience of making decisions, being part of those conversations what can make a difference, giving you the confidence to understand, because when you're at that level, you're making very critical decisions, and you need some experience of being bold enough to step up and make those decisions. So I think this is where, there again, I think there's a pattern of encouragement, support, getting people to offer up in certain positions to give them experience. I know football is a different thing, but it's just, it's just giving the confidence to work at that level, and then maybe pushing further up into, because a lot of these guys at boardroom level, they're strategic, they're businessmen and women, some of them don't know nothing about football, and that's not being disrespectful. They're business, they're brought in. It's another subject. We're looking at, teaching nowadays. Some people are coming in, they've not had teaching experience, but they've been brought in at that business level. To run a school
at the administrator level,
administrator, because schools, you have to have that business head. So that's another conversation. But I think we've answered a few of our own.
Posed a few questions and answered a few. I think the conversation's been good. I think we kind of touched on the representation and maybe some reasons why and why not it's there, and it's the fact that we're having the conversation is good. Good.
No, likewise, there should be more, but then as they say, there needs to be affirmative action with it. So that's unfortunately we're not at that level, but fantastic.
Well, I'm glad we were able to have a discussion around it.